Thanks.
Hello, this is Gre-gory Smalley, uh, joined by Giles Deadwards this week for Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. I need to complete my costume. And we are recording on Halloween. However, you won't be seeing this on Halloween. You'll be seeing this most likely on the Day of the Dead. So,
Also, a very good day.
also a very
Uh,
good day. They're
those of
all
you
good days.
there. Oh, well, I mean, certainly any day that there's a certified weird movie to watch is a good day.
Do you have a certified weird good movie to
Well, I
watch?
was just thinking, the wonderful service provided largely by you, and then with
Yes,
your
yes.
your assistants. What do you remember? What the selection was for?
For Halloween, geez, who was it? Suspiria, maybe?
That'd be a good one.
I'm not sure. I remember which day it was Halloween. It could be Evil Dead 2, could be Suspiria. Those are both in the Hollywood or the Hollywood Halloween area uh, of time. I believe a director had his birthday on maybe it's Brain Dead because I believe one
Oh
director
yeah,
has his
Peter birthday.
birthday on
Yeah, his
on
birthday's on Halloween.
Halloween.
Happy birthday, Peter Jackson.
So if it's Peter Jackson's birthday, then it is Dead Alive that is the Halloween choice.
Excellent. Oh, wonderful.
I don't happen to have the list before me, and I don't have it committed to memory. So,
Okay.
but we're here to talk about new releases. We may have guests on next week, holding a spot open for them. I haven't heard back about scheduling, so we don't know, but we're hoping to have guests next week. Here are the six releases we're going to talk about this week. A very motley crew. Um,
Yeah.
Not really, everything Halloween themed came out last week. What we have this week is certainly some of it's a bit macabre. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Bottom center, if that's still from what I think it's from, that looked good and creepy.
yeah, let's begin with the first one, which actually is a horror movie, and this still I will let Giles describe, but it's not actually a still for the movie we're promoting here, which I guess
Oh,
I'll
okay.
explain
Yeah.
after Giles is done with his description of the still.
All right. Well, in the blurry background, we can see that whatever it is we're seeing in the foreground is either right in front of or floating atop an azure body of water of some sort. In the very foreground, it's a bit blurry, but we can see the outline of a female form lying in repose that might be comfortable, but it ultimately doesn't matter. And then in the midground, which is actually in focus, is another female form, more clad, I believe, than the one in the foreground, with a rather blank expression, longish brown hair, kind of, sort of, and her head is positioned at the opposite side, so you have, foot to head on the foreground blurry, then foot to head in the other direction in the midground, and then this sea thing. And it's probably very much worth mentioning that these female figures are not living or people. So I don't know if they're statues or very elaborate mannequins or we can hope puppets, but they are facsimiles of the female form.
Yes. And there's some very blurry but perky breasts in the
They
foreground.
they are both blurry and perky. About as perky as they are blurry.
As perky as they are blurry. Yes, that's a slogan for something. I don't know. Um, so anyway, this still is actually illustrating um, the co-feature that it's with. What we wanted to talk about especially is the co-feature, which is Coralie Fairgets, don't know how to pronounce her name, the substance. which debuts on Mubi today. And of course, The Substance took cinemas by storm this Halloween. It did very well at Cannes. I believe it won an award for best screenplay. If not, it was shortlisted. There's been a lot of buzz about Demi Moore's performance in it, which is definitely the best performance from her I've ever seen in anything. Um, and Margaret Qualley plays her sort of younger, sort of doppelganger. And I've been waiting for Margaret Qualley to have a fairly meaty role, and this one qualifies. This one qualifies. Probably a little short of star making for her, but because it is the lesser of the two major
Hmm.
roles. So it's not really a star performance, but I hope we will definitely see more of her. Certainly, she looks absolutely gorgeous in the film, and the movie is about a woman who is given a mysterious substance that enables her to create a sort of clone of herself with whom she shares a consciousness
Oh.
intermittently, but things get a bit complicated, as you might guess. That is debuting on Mubi this week. But as I was looking at that on Mubi, this one popped up, the still that we're using to illustrate it. This is part of a series of shorts, exclusive shorts that Mubi has. There's one by Jonathan Glazer. I don't know what the others are. It's not really very easy to navigate their site to see all the films in this series. However, this one is from David Cronenberg, and it has the rather interesting title, Four Unloved Women Adrift on a Purposeless Sea Experience the Ecstasy of Dissection. And it's only 4 minutes long. There is a clip on the website, which you can link to from our blog post, or you can follow the link to see it from our blog post, which is almost a minute long. So that's almost a fourth of the film there in preview. Did you see the preview by chance?
Yeah, I did not. This was the one I missed out on, but I guess perhaps all the better when perhaps I dig up the whole 4 minutes and commit myself to a fresh experience.
Yeah, so I guess we shouldn't spoil it, but they are. Here's the synopsis. Long live the new flesh, surgery is the new sex. These Cronenbergian epigrams come together in a tableau that reimagines the ecstasy and eroticism of Renaissance sculpture for the future. Or is it already the present?
Dun,
Um,
dun,
it's
dun.
very much from the preview clip, very much a mood piece.
Okay. Now the title reminds me of, I don't know, for some reason I think of, oh, the brothers Quay would have a short titled something that incredibly long.
Yeah, long, incredibly long. Descriptive, I think, title.
I'm
There are
I'm
four
with
figures, I'm guessing. They are literally adrift on a sea, and they are dissected, as you will see from the preview.
and
But
so ends my book report on Cronenberg's latest film.
yeah, so I'm not going to subscribe to Mubi just to see that. But if you have a subscription to Mubi, um, and you didn't know that was on there, it's coming November 1st. So when this is out, uh, it will be out,
Yeah.
and definitely would be worth seeing. I think it's from 2023, so it's very recent. Did some played some film festivals and so on. But let's move on to a feature-length film. You want to describe this very bright still, Giles?
Yeah, we got a sort of, I'll call it a neon noir kind of feel to this, with lighting such that the drab concrete, it looks like a restaurant exterior, has blue overtone. There's the red patio style furniture with tables. There's a yellow picket fence decoration on the glass front of the eatery slash bar. Lots of things you can see in the deep background that this is a pretty well stocked bar. Um, Sort of, I guess I describe it maybe a little Hopper-esque, just because that's an easy name to drop for a certain mood for things. And there's a middle-aged guy on the right, largely in shadow. But you can tell he's bearded and rather casually dressed, and sort of that slicked back hair that I associate with people who just don't care anymore. And he may have reached that point in his life, and he seems to be leaning forward with an emphatically gestured hand, um, talking to a young woman who looks like she might be on her way to not caring about anything anymore, but she is seated fairly upright and seems to be processing information as opposed to resigning herself to the cruel fate of the world. But I might be reading a bit too much into this. That said, there is a lot to read here, so a very neat still, and I believe a very French one.
Well, Belgian. Do you know what the
Belgian, excuse me, French language
Yeah,
still.
yes. Do you know the name of the movie?
I will in a moment. It's the
Uh,
other Laurens.
the other Lawrence, yes, indeed. This is one I had mentioned before. I guess you weren't on the podcast when we mentioned this before when it came out in theaters. I think, Giles.
That sounds right. Yeah, I
Probably
can.
was Pete co-hosting that day.
Yeah.
Um, so this one is described as, let me see if I can pull that up. Oh, yes. Official plot description is a private detective is forced to face the ghosts of his past when his niece asks him to investigate her father's death. Um, and that doesn't sound like much. It only really came to my attention because number one, Yellow Veil is releasing it, and they
Hmm.
rarely release anything that doesn't have a little bit of oddness and off baseness to it. And then there were a couple of reviews that called out. One reviewer called it Lynchian, which I know is a very lazy descriptor, and a strange film. And the Hollywood Reporter referred to bits of dark comedy and weirdness. Was not very well reviewed and did not appear to be very well received by most people on IMDb either. L'autre Lorenz. Um, Trailer is not especially revealing. You can see that it is in that neon noir genre where everything is very brightly lit. The trailer is sort of crisply edited
Mhm.
for the most part. It doesn't give away much of the plot. We know that there are two Laurens. One is successful, and one is probably more of a criminal. And a niece, who is that scantily clad lady, young girl, well, young woman in the still, and uh, and that's about all we know. It's from Belgium.
Yeah. The trailer was as you describe, but about half of it was this odd exchange between like a few. I'm gonna guess they were burglars or some sort of hoods who were looking in on a guy that one of them very keenly wanted to beat up, and it has a sort of flippant exchange between the boss kind of guy says cheeseburger and is corrected by an underling with cheeseburger. And this goes back and forth for about 15, 20 seconds, which it was a cute little scene. And also, I perhaps revealing that they included such a thing as, proportionally the largest bit of the trailer. So if that's setting the tone, I'm actually rather intrigued at the combination of neo-noir and well, silliness, I suppose would be the.
Yeah, I got some Tarantino vibes off that dialogue exchange, and I think there's also some Big Lebowski vibes off the plot because I suspect these two twin brothers are confused for one another and leading one into an adventure that doesn't really deal directly with him. That's a guess as to the plot, though,
Yeah.
but did get some Big Lebowski vibes. And I think somebody who reviewed it negatively on IMDb did also mention the Big Lebowski as a touch point for the plot. Um, but that is now on Blu-ray. It had already been on DVD. It is now on Blu-ray, excuse me, and there's a commentary by the director, the DP, and the composer, a bonus short film, and an essay by a Belgian film scholar are the extras there. But, excuse me. And that's the other Laurens. And now let's move on to another one. We have a poster here for Giles to
We sure
describe.
do. This is a predominantly black poster. Top and bottom are black. In the center, there's some bluish smoke. Yeah, we'll say that's bluish smoke there. And emerging from this smoke, center, top and bottom, center, left and right, just a center kind of guy. Done up like, I don't know, this fella looks a little too old for having been to a prom, but golly, if that isn't the kind of outfit he seems to be wearing. Crummy wrinkled tux, one of those frill front shirts that I don't know, may have briefly been acceptable in fashionable circles in perhaps the 70s, but since then have been kind of relegated to proms and weird throwbacks. And this guy can't quite figure out what gesticulations are going on with his hands, but they're up to something weird as they're down by his side. And the expression on his face is cryptic. And all together there is a real aura of down at the heel mystery going on here.
Do you know? I mean, you know who it is because his name is prominently on the poster, but would you know who it was if his name wasn't there?
I would not, and if I heard that name separately, I'd inquire whether or not he was the son of a more famous person with that name.
So you're not familiar with the great star of The Birthday,
This is
Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman of Feldman's Angels, or Corey's Angels, sorry. Has a, yeah, you should look that up, Corey's Angels, and maybe look up one of his self-made music videos for his band.
it's certainly looking at his filmography. He does seem very intriguing.
Yes, of course, he and Corey, the late Corey Haim, starred together in a number of teen movies in the 80s.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like they did the thing a lot of child stars did, Corey Haim got into some trouble and died young. Corey Feldman kind of went insane. Uh,
Mhm.
but here he is in 2004, giving what from the trailer looks like a fairly decent performance. Um, I'm not even going to mention when I talk about Corey Feldman the allegations about that he has leveled at Michael Jackson. You can do a lot of Corey Feldman research. He really is sort of a fascinating train wreck of a character actor, but the idea of him being in a lost film from 2004 that never got released on DVD, never got into theaters, at least not very wide, but it being some sort of lost oddity is super intriguing to me.
Yeah.
The trailer was kind of cool, and Jordan Peele is one of the people who really is championing this film, along with, I think, Elijah Wood. Drafthouse
Okay.
is
Yep.
doing it because it premiered at their Fantastic Fest, and then they restored it and re-released it this year, and they're now releasing it to select theaters and, more importantly, for most people on VOD. Uh,
Mhm.
Available now. I'll
Yeah.
read their brief description. Norman Forrester, played by the iconic Corey Feldman in a career-defining performance, is finally going to meet his girlfriend's family at her birthday party, but a night of promise leads to disaster when Norman uncovers an ancient evil that might bring about the end of the world. And so that is that. I I hope that this movie is as good as Drafthouse is pumping it up to be. I suspect it probably can't be, but it should be
Yeah.
at least interesting. Any final thoughts on the birthday, Giles, before?
No, no, I'm very much intrigued, especially as I look further through the previous 145 roles of Corey Feldman. It seems one in three of them are as himself, which I think says a lot about what he is, and I'm
Those
always
are
pleased.
all recent ones, I'm guessing.
Going back, I don't know, 10, 20 years. It's like Pauly Shore is dead. He played as Corey Feldman, and yeah, other. Yeah, so no, I'm on board with this.
Okay.
I will probably at least rent this.
Yeah, definitely research Corey Feldman's history before watching it because I think that will add something to it. But let's move on to another one. This is not a particularly good
Hmm.
image. It's a Blu-ray cover that's kind of covered up. It's got actually the name's covered up in this.
Oh, got no, it's got it sideways, and yeah, I guess that thing must be able to remove it, or it,
Right.
is
But
because
Giles,
the
go ahead and describe this partially covered Blu-ray cover.
well, ignoring the left-hand third of the cover, which is covered by another cover, we got some very red tone and black going on here. On the top is one of those ominously cheerful looking scientist or some other intellectual variety with glasses and mustache and just a trace of a grin. And one is very tempted to suspect that this guy is very happy about his work, but his work is probably evil. Below him are some stylized skeleton ghost things with flowing hair on either side of a bonsai small plant thing atop a little peak, maybe just a rock. The scale on this is difficult to pin down. And then there's the name of the director, the title in the language of origin. And for the bottom, we see what I suspect is the back side of a silhouette version of the protagonist, ambiguous human form. I know what that is, but I've seen the trailer. But judging from this image, hard to see anything other than a small figure going through a large gate that has some sunflowers along the top and I don't know, vertical lines of some sort. Maybe there's like one of those bead curtains over this thing, or some other very uh, lightweight separation veil between him and what's beyond it. And looking at it a little closer now, darned if I don't think I perhaps see a face in a very rudimentary form. I could be just projecting as humans do. Couple eyes, maybe a mouth thing, but that's probably not there. There's certainly a bunch of smoky mysteriousness going on, though.
Right. Okay. And the name, which is partially covered up on the cover, but fully available on the other cover, is Dogra Magra. No idea what that means. And the director is Toshio Matsumoto, who directed. Do you know what else he directed, Giles?
I don't off the top of
Okay.
my head.
Funeral Parade of Roses, which is
Okay.
canonically weird film, one of his
Oh.
early films. This is his last final film. Uh, and other than Funeral Parade of Roses, I don't think any of his other films are available uh, in the United States generally. So
It looks
this,
like most of them are short film.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, he
got
wasn't very prolific making features. So,
uh,
um, but he made a lot of shorts and a lot of avant-garde. I'm not
oh,
sure how many features he made, but I do know this one has not been available in the United States previously. As a matter of fact, Radiance is advertising it as the world Blu-ray premiere. And I'll go ahead and read the synopsis on the cover. A young man kills his wife on their wedding day and goes insane. He wakes up in an insane asylum with no memory as two doctors help him recall his past, reality and fantasy become blurrier. A gothic tale with a sense of dreamy dread that recalls Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure and the locked room mystery of Shutter Island. Toshio Matsumoto, Funeral Parade of Roses' final feature is a stunningly shot phantasmagoria adapted from Kayusaku Umeno's novel. Kayusaku Umeno's novel. And the Blu-ray contains commentary and interview with the director, a visual essay, and a booklet with some stuff in it.
Yeah, looking at the date for the audio commentary, I'm guessing there was a DVD release 21 years ago, and they've ported that
But
over to this Blu-ray.
not in only in Japan.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all.
And it's probably reused and translated for this one. Um, some interesting notes. I read a review of this that described something from one of the supplements suggested that the director's intent was to make a movie influenced strongly by two other favorite movies of ours, one being Last Year at Marienbad and the other being Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Gosh, we really like both those
Yeah,
movies.
we
Yeah.
really like those, as well as his previous movie, Funeral Parade of Roses.
Well,
So a lot of good promise there. This is actually probably if it's as eh, I'm worried that it's kind of a lost film. If it was so great, you would think that somebody would have brought it over before now, but it
mm,
really does look promising. And if you watch the trailer, which again will be embedded on our blog post, or you can simply look up the trailer for Dogra Magra on YouTube, the trailer is very promising,
yeah.
very promising. It makes it look like exactly the kind of weirdness that we would hope it would have. What did you think of the trailer, Giles? Do you
Oh,
have
I agree with you. It did look very promising, and yeah, the menacing but smiling scientist is one of my favorite archetypes generally. So I am as I like to be intrigued by this. There was a blurb comment from some magazine or critic source that said, if ever there was a masterpiece, it's in cinema, it's this movie or something along those lines, which suggested until this came around and was discovered by this magazine. Effectively, there had been no masterpieces of cinema. Now, I bet that this movie is very, very, very good and is a masterpiece among other masterpieces that exist. But that quibble aside, which I don't blame the movie for, this is good.
it's a masterpiece like no other. Um, okay, so that is definitely one we're excited about to look out for. Hope it's as good as it appears to be.
Yeah, I guess we
Oh,
should advise this is a special edition limited to 3,000 copies. I'm less worried about this one selling out mysteriously than other ones that we've mentioned the day after they come out and they're already gone. But that is if you're getting it, probably worth getting it sooner rather than later.
well, the next one is another limited edition.
Oh.
This is quite a still for you to describe there, Giles.
All right. Well, judging from the automobile, I'm gonna say we are probably in the early 60s, maybe when the slab cars had finally taken on. But then again, uh, oh, I'm getting some secret signs. 73. Okay, so we're in the early 70s. I was close. This is outside of, I'm gonna guess, looks like a convenience store. There's tucked away on the building, which dominates the right-hand third, a Coca-Cola sign. So either a little, diner or convenience store there. And it's a street sidewalk scene centered on the sidewalk. In the distance, we can see maybe a Winnebago or something that's, just parked up by a bakery. And in the background, we see the sheriff with what looks, I don't know, it could be the angle or lighting, but man, looks like he's got some bell-bottom sheriff slacks on there as he stands outside of his sheriff car to the left. And in the foreground are, from my recollection of the trailer, some of the main features of this film. We'll start with the innocent bystander on the left. Looks like a young girl with shoulder-length double side ponytail hair, very wholesome little flowery dress thing, looking up at a fella with an expression of perhaps disbelief. The fella dead center we know is an eccentric for at least two reasons. One, he's got a very long suit top coat kind of thing, a la like Groucho Marx, the kind of thing with the long tail.
Mhm.
He's also wearing an A-cut shirt underneath that, I believe, and of course, making me suspect he might be some sort of bohemian. He has a sort of some cross between a black necktie and a scarf kind of done in a knot around his bare neck. So this is a guy who's kind of spruced himself up in a rather minimalist way for going out on the town. Now, the two figures behind this guy and taking up the right-hand side of the image are both kind of generic, normal townsfolk looking types, although the woman does have a very prominent red updo that I guess is a bit over a foot tall. But, that's just a personal taste thing, I'm sure. But their expressions and positioning suggest a degree of woodenness.
Yeah. They kind of
Their,
stick.
either the performance of the actors or their performance as what they are in context of this man, this bohemian fellow in the center of the image.
Uh,
So they don't look, not that anything in this still looks that right anyway. These two figures standing such as they are and looking at such strange, pointless angles as they are suggest that they are not natural.
and Giles, have you seen this
You know,
certified canonically weird movie?
I have not, but I know years ago I read the review and watching the trailer. Yeah, I do want to see it now.
Yeah, you should want to see it because it's a very, very strange movie, and it's not strange in that David Lynch type of way. It's just strange in that there's no other movie like it. It's
Mm.
totally very strange. And so this is William Castle's final movie, Shanks, last movie of his career, and he chose to go out with a movie about a mute puppeteer who discovers a way to control corpses with a remote control. And cast famous mime Marcel Marceau,
Okay.
the mute puppeteer. Uh, and
Like you do.
Marcel brought in some of his mime troupe to play the reanimated corpses, two of whom we see in this still.
And that would explain the very impressive thing I saw in the trailer too.
And he befriends this young girl. And the presence of that young girl as the sort of secondary protagonist, deuteragonist, kind of makes it seem like a children's movie. And yet, on the other hand, it's really way too macabre to be a children's movie. And it ends, quite naturally with an invasion of a biker gang, a menacing biker gang,
Oh,
who have to fight, who Marcel Marceau fights with his reanimated corpses. Um, so yeah, at times it seems kind of like a sitcom from the 70s, and at other times it's the most bizarre horror movie you've ever seen. Really, real tonal whiplash there. Strange choices in every direction, very much worth seeing. This is a limited edition release only from Vinegar Syndrome. They're not releasing it to other retailers. So you might get a used copy. I'm not sure how many. This one might sell out. I'm not sure.
4,000 units, limit of two per customer,
4,000.
you
Yeah.
say.
4,000 units, maybe not. I don't know. But if you're interested, you might want to get on it. It is a UHD with a Region A Blu-ray, new commentary, but not by anybody involved with the films. It's from film critic Tim Newman, who's very good, and another guy I'm unfamiliar with. A lot of new and archival featurettes also on that. So yeah, if you haven't seen Shanks yet, um, It's a very strange movie. There's a reason it's we named it one of the 366 weirdest movies of all time.
Been on the list for just over a decade now.
I think it was one
That's
of well, I don't remember. I thought it was one of the later editions, but
yes, number 159 in the order that
so
you
dead,
found
kind of dead middle, yeah.
it.
Okay. So one last film to talk about. We have a still, Giles. Very
All right.
minimalist, I guess, still. So
This is looks like a classically framed black and white, mostly black nurse's face, kind of middle-aged, dowdy hairstyle, mouth agape slightly, and her face is illuminated from below, I think, in that sort of, oh, I'm doing something spooky kind of way. And she is mid-word, but with such a blank expression, it's hard to guess what that word or sentence might have been like.
okay. Yeah, and it's a black and white still, and it is from.
Blonde on a bum trip.
I just love that title, Blonde on a Bum Trip. So Blonde on a Bum Trip, a sexploitation movie from the LSD era. So it's a
Hmm.
slash LSD-sploitation movie with ample sex. It's about a blonde chemistry student who's manipulated into manufacturing LSD and falls into the sleazy LSD lifestyle of constant orgies, as people do when they take LSD.
Oh, every one of them.
The
Sadly,
strange thing about this is I've known the title for years, and I just assumed this was available. I don't think it's been available since VHS, and they are bringing it out on Blu-ray. Um, they say it hasn't been, it's the Blu-ray debut, newly restored, has been long missing from the video scene. I
hmm.
think it was something weird had the rights, surely, to it. And so it's a surprise that it would not have been available before, but here it is on Blu-ray. They describe it as a wonderfully weird grindhouse classic, which has gained cult status in no small part due to its incredible original garage rock soundtrack by the E-Types and the Vagrants, long unavailable on video. So it is something weird, and they're bringing it back. Uh, don't know why it was missing for so long. As I said, the title has stuck in my head for quite a while. It's probably not very good. We're
And if it's not, it's only an hour long, so
hoping it's so bad it's weird.
right.
So bad it's weird category. Um, but I was surprised that one has not been available. And so that should just about do it. Giles, do you have any final words in our last 30 seconds?
Well, of course, it being Day of the Dead, you should probably take out that copy of November you've got and give that of you having watched some Halloween stuff yesterday. And other than that, no, I think that was a good Halloween recorded episode,
All
Greg.
right, happy Day of the Dead. And
Happy
see
Day
you
of the
next
Dead.
week when we may or may not have a guest. Bye bye.
Weird. Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.